Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names and vocabulary lessons. Jillian, what's a towhead?
A towhead, according to UrbanDictionary.com, the number one authority of all things. In colonial times, families grew their own flax to make into fabric for clothing. Transforming the flax was a complicated process called towing. And during towing, they would separate the long, thin fibers from the shorter, coarser ones. And the shorter fibers were not as high quality, so they wouldn't use them. But they were very, very light blonde color. So if someone called you a towhead, it meant you were very blonde. And the ultimate example is Draco Malfoy.
Wonderful. So that came up in our conversation in this episode with Angie Schworer. I forgot to introduce myself. So I am your host, Alan Seals.
I'm your producer, Jillian Hockman.
Yes, we talked about towheads from Kentucky with Angie Schworer. I was fascinated with this in this conversation with her because she is now in the Prom on Broadway. Of course, part of our May takeover here is all people from the Prom. And the character was literally written basically as her. Like the character is even named Angie. And as Casey Nicola was kind of crafting the whole thing with the writers, they were like, yeah, we need the Angie Schworer type, the Angie Schworer type. And then they were like, why don't we just get Angie? And so she came in, and this character is an exaggerated version of her, but her character is an actress in the show who was in Chicago for the production of Chicago for over 20 years and has never gotten to play Roxy Hart. And we got into that, like the parallels in her own life, because she's got this 28-year career on Broadway where she's just gone from like showgirl part to showgirl to chorus girl to ensemble. And then this is her first leading role, like at front and center sort of thing.
Well, it's her first role that she originated.
Yes, that she originated.
But I love that she talks about at one point, they came up with these characters and they were developing them. And in one form they sent out with all the characters and the descriptions of them, it just said, Angie, think of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of proof to the fact that you can have a long, successful Broadway career without ever, I put in air quotes, being a star.
Yeah.
Like she's talented and she can sing and she can dance and she can act. And I from the outside, I feel like she keeps getting called in for the same type of roles because that's how people see her. And then over time of 28 years of being called in for the same type of role, then that's kind of what she's convinced herself that all she can do. And you told me off mic that you thought I was getting a little preachy, which I was trying to get her to kind of see that I think she's bigger than what she's allowing herself to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but I think if she's happy with what she's doing, then right on.
Oh, no. I don't think she's doing anything wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. I as a supporter of her and supporter of the show and supporter of like the talent that I see on stage a lot, I think that she is just as capable of doing anything that she would want to, but somebody would offer her.
But I think that's something you always want talented people to do more and do better. Like you always want your friends, you always see more for your friends and for people you care about than they see for themselves. So
maybe.
We love you, Angie.
Yeah, well, okay. I can see that. Everybody, please enjoy this episode with Angie Schworer.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
A 28-year veteran on the Broadway stage, this true-life gypsy has been part of original casts in 9 out of 11 of her Broadway credits, which include Will Rogers Follies, Annie Get Your Gun, Young Frankenstein, Catch Me If You Can, Something Rotten, and The Producers, and now starring as Angie in The Prom. Angie Schworer, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Hi, Theater Podcast.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Tell me about young Angie. Where did it all begin?
Oh, young Angie was a little towhead that grew up in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky.
What's a towhead?
Oh, it's like when your hair is really, really blonde. You never heard that term?
No.
Towhead?
No.
It's like my hair was naturally really, really blonde. No one's heard that term before? You guys are too young. Oh, God.
Too young.
Anyway, little blonde girl. And I started with dance at about 5 years old and acro. So I never really was on my feet. I was always twirling and upside down and round off back handspringing down the hallway to greet people in my house. And I was a gymnast too for a while. But I just always danced. I think from, I said 5, but my dance teacher's daughter started teaching me at 4 in another studio. So I've been dancing since I was 4 years old.
That's crazy.
And at 105 years old, that means I've been dancing for 101 years.
That's right.
And so I just started out as a dancer, and I think that's just been my thing from day one. That's what my passion. That's where my passion lies. Now, because I am a little older, it's a little harder, but it's still just who I am and what I do and what I love to do.
Do you have any siblings?
I have 4 brothers and a sister.
So one of 6.
Yeah, so I'm the 5th one. So they all had to drive me to dance school.
Are you the only one that danced?
Oh, no, my sister did, she's 9 years older than me. So I went to watch her, which is also how I got hooked. She took a real career and was a pediatrics nurse. So she did something important.
Wait, okay. So you have a real career.
I know.
And
I'm
B,
just kidding.
you are important. So
I know what we do is important, but somehow, taking care of newborn babies in the ICU unit seems a little more important than what I do.
Okay, fair enough.
My sissy.
And so where did you grow up?
Fort Mitchell, Kentucky.
Fort Mitchell, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. It's right across the river from Cincinnati. So Cincinnati was my big metropolis growing up. And I did some modeling there, and I did all kinds of things as a kid, teenager.
As a towhead. I'm going to start calling everybody. Can you only call kids towheads, or can anybody be a towhead? Are you a towhead now?
No, I think you really just call kids that are naturally towheads. Let's Google it. Could we Google it?
Wait, is that offensive? Like,
no, I don't think so.
Can you still say ginger? Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Ginger?
Oh, yeah.
So like ginger is a redhead and a towhead is a blonde. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But so I danced my whole life. Cincinnati was where I did some things. I did some little commercials and things growing up. But basically, before I went to college, I was a dancer and did my recitals and things like that. I didn't do any book shows, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Except in high school, I did play the bird, the griffin in Alice in Wonderland. I had 2 lines. I don't remember what they are, but I remember I wore a onesie with some talons on my hands. And that was it. That was my book show
And then
career.
where did you go to school? To college?
I went to Northern Kentucky University. It's a small college in Crescent Spring. I can't remember the town now. Isn't that awful? That's awful. We'll have to Google that too. Northern Kentucky University. And I got my BFA, but I actually, the theater, it was just sort of starting to grow. So I felt like I would be a bigger fish in a small pond as opposed to trying to get into CCM. I think I was such a late bloomer. I didn't really think I was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went to Northern Kentucky University. I got a little dance scholarship, and I started doing more book shows. I think my first role I did, and maybe my only role, because I might have done more dance stuff, was Lois Lane in Kiss Me Kate.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
that was in college. And then I did the theme park route in my summers.
You were at Busch Gardens.
I went Williamsburg, Virginia, Busch Gardens.
Me too.
You did.
I did.
Okay, well, you probably weren't there when I was there because I'm
No,
older than you. But
no.
I did the German show was my very
Festhaus.
first show. Yeah, with the little braids and
And
the
the
German
plotters.
dress and the dirndl. I think that's what you call German dress.
Yep.
Then the next summer I did Journey into Music, which was the indoor show. Come with us now, our journey's starting. Step, pivot, step, step. I remember the beginning. And then I worked at Disney for a few years, and was a showgirl in Atlantic City. I was a showgirl in Japan. I went back to Disney and opened up MGM Studios. And through someone I worked with at Disney, I got my first Broadway show.
What is that story?
So that's where you say you got to be kind to everybody because you never know.
Yeah.
His name is DJ Salisbury, and he was my partner at the Diamond Horseshoe at Disney. And he was working on the Will Rogers Follies with Tommy Tune and Jeff Calhoun. And he called me on the landline at the entertainment office at Disney. You don't even know what a landline is, do you?
I'm 38. Yes, I know what a landline is.
And I got the little pink slip from someone at the office and said, DJ wants you to call him. So I called him and he said, I think you should come up and audition for this show. One of the prerequisites was to be over 5'8". I'm almost 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. I flew up and auditioned. Not without sending a VHS tape ahead of time because I thought if they don't like what I look like, I'm not going to spend the money to fly up.
Right.
Who did I think I was at 24, whatever I was, 24, 25? So I did. I spliced together a VHS tape of all the things I was doing on property. And I did like spotting walkovers at the Diamond Horseshoe and the Can number. So I did all spliced together and they said, sure, come on up. So I did. And I auditioned on the Nederlander stage on 41st Street on the lunch break of their workshop they were doing. Back then, you did the workshops in the theater.
Yeah.
We went to the Palace to open the show, but they rehearsed at the Nederlander because the whole stage is stairs.
Yeah.
So they needed to have a space. You know, you couldn't do it in a studio. So I auditioned on lunch break and then come to find out that all of my now friends are sitting in the audience watching me audition on their lunch break. Jerry Mitchell, Katie Huffman, Troy Johnson, and Atel, and others. And lots of others. And I think if I would have known that, God, I would have been so nervous, even more nervous than I probably already was.
Yeah. I think it was it Nancy Opal was telling us like, yeah, back in the day, you used to audition on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was actually, there was only one other time I think I auditioned on stage. It was something I didn't get, and I don't remember what it was. Goodbye Girl or something?
I don't know.
Something I didn't get, but I auditioned on the stage.
When did you know that you wanted to make performing a career?
God, I wish I was that person that was like, I just knew, from the beginning. I literally, it was just a series of events that I just kept jumping to that got me here.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying yes. Do you know what I mean? Like Busch Gardens, who would have thought that would have got me here? Do you know in Columbus, I think it is, there's a theme park called Kings Island.
Mm-hmm.
I auditioned several times and never got it. And I was just devastated because I wanted to work in, my home, sort of near my hometown. I never got it. But I got Busch Gardens and I got, you know what I mean? So I just took what came to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then working at Disney, I was just going to stay there. I was going to stay there and work for the Mouse because it was a great corporation. I was making great money for that time.
Right.
And
were you equity at that point?
No, they didn't have it then. But I made money and I did all the different shows on the, I was going to say the campus, on
property.
What is the word? On the property. Thank you. Convention shows. I worked at Hollywood was the Disney, we were the Disney Girl show in the Hollywood Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dick Tracy show. And I was the dance captain. So I was running the shows, and I loved it. And I was making money.
I remember the Dick Tracy show. I used to go to Disney a lot.
Okay, so I was a sub in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned all the shows on property and I was making money. I put a down payment on a house. I was going to live there. And when I got the Broadway, I pulled my deposit and moved on up.
Oh, so the timing was it lined up exactly.
Yeah, but although, it was in Lake Buena Vista, so I might have, made some money if I did have the house. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But it was meant to be the way it was meant to be because I knew so many people that had moved to New York that were 20,000 times more talented than me and weren't booking a lot of stuff. So I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I'm going to move there. So it was just the right place at the right time, I guess. And being the right type, because at that time, that's when, the years that I've worked up until now were showgirls. You were they wanted the showgirls, the Stro girls. Yeah.
So what year did you move up to New York? What was that?
1991. And I know you're doing the math right now.
No, so what I was getting at was that you were in the original cast of Follies in 91.
Mm-hmm.
So you moved up here for
I moved up
Follies?
I moved up here February 8th, 1991. I started rehearsals on February 9th, 1991.
That's crazy.
So I moved to a brand new city, started a brand new job, had to learn how to do the subway and all of those things. And I was a swing, which means I covered all the ladies in the ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mainly the six tall. I can't remember if there were 12 or 14 of us, but mainly the six taller, the six tallest girls. But I ended up going on for almost all of them but one.
So yeah, that was 91. And okay, so you had one day between moving and starting, and obviously New York and Times Square.
I had a friend here that I moved in with while I started rehearsal, and then I moved in with another friend. So I just brought clothes, basically.
Did you think that your career was just kind of going to get laid out in front of you at that point? Because you had like 24 hours of not having a job in New York City, which is very, very rare for anybody who really, wants to make it.
I don't think I know, obviously, how much I know now about how a show can open and not stay open. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I just, like I said, I just sort of took what was coming. And then I stayed in the Will Rogers Follies, not the whole time, but for about 2 years, I think. And I auditioned for Stro and got Crazy for You, the first national tour, on stage, because I wanted to be on stage. I was a swing in Will Rogers. And so I took that.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically I wouldn't leave a job, A, unless the show closed, or 2, unless I got another one. So that's kind of the way I was working it out back in the day.
Yeah, you went from show to show, and then I think you returned to Chicago. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I opened the first national tour of Chicago and did that for a couple years. And then I did it here for only a replacement time for maybe about 4 months. I did Mona. I was Go to Hell Kitty and covered Roxy on the tour, and then I did Mona here for about 4 months.
Wow. Okay. So when did you ever take any formal acting training, and like when did the singing and the acting start getting pulled into
I still need singing lessons. I'm terrible. They told me I had to speak and sing when I got to college. So I kind of started then, I guess. That's when we took acting classes and voice lessons, and I still try to every once in a while, But I think that's where, and I think because I didn't learn that at an earlier age, I think it was a little bit of a detriment for me, because I still don't have, let's be clear, I didn't have, that the confidence and the thing of like, I am an actress and a singer too, Coming from a dance background, you're just never good enough. It's just what we dancers do to ourselves. You're just never good enough. So
I think everybody does that.
In a weird way. Well, I think dancers are harder on themselves, but, I think that's where the determination and the scrappiness sort of comes from, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably not till college. Now, my mother was a singer, not professionally, but she could sing. And so we would try to sing together, but then she'd do a harmony, and then I'd just go sing with her the harmony. I didn't know how to keep the melody with her. So we did come from a sort of musical family. My dad was a drummer. He was a doctor, but he was a drummer. So I guess I got my rhythm and my rhythm is my vocals from somebody in the family.
Zazz.
And my zazz.
Yeah. You also assistant choreographed Rocky Horror.
I did. Jerry Mitchell asked me. This was when I had a little time off between a few shows. It was probably between Annie Get Your Gun and the producers, maybe. I had a little time. I'm not sure if that's correct. Is that correct?
I don't have the timeline, but sure. We'll go with yes. And
he said, I always wanted to ask you to assist me. So he did. He took me to lunch and asked me to assist him on the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it's the one and only time I ever have. He never asked me again. I like to give him crap about it.
Do you wish you could do more choreographing, or like Do you want to get into the teaching
I
stuff?
don't know. I don't know what the next phase is. I'm not sure. There was a time where I thought it would be more of maybe an agent or a casting director. And then a couple years ago, with my friend Troy Johnson, who I mentioned, he directed and I choreographed a show at a college, a brand new show. And we had a ball. And I realized, I mean, it was, it was college kids and it was not like big splashy musical numbers, it was stagey kind of fun stuff. But we both had a blast and I loved doing it. And there was something sort of great about their opening night where it was like, I was done. Now opening night is our jittery time, like, oh God, oh God. So there was something sort of great about it and something very fulfilling when you'd finish a number and the ideas would sort of flow. And I don't know, I guess there's creativity with just living it for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, in Something Rotten, in the opening number, let's say Casey Nicholas says, and you're going to go from here, up on the box, over here, blah, blah, blah. And then you sort of fill in what the moves is, what the moves are to the music.
Mm-hmm.
So in a weird way, we were all sort of doing it, right? Now, do I think I could choreograph a big splashy musical number? Not a chance. But yeah, I mean, I do love that creative part too. So maybe that would be the thing. Maybe I'll get Jerry to ask me again. Or Casey.
Actually, yeah, Casey seems to be able to want to work with you, be able to wanting.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's been amazing. And I'm very grateful and I owe him. He's just given me some great jobs. The first job we did together was Minsky's in LA. Because you have all my Broadway stuff, but then I got a few other things I've done. But that was the first time. And I auditioned for him for Minsky's. And that was Bob Martin too. So that was the first time I got to work with them. And it's just joy for me. They're both just joyful, amazing, grateful humans, kind humans. So for me, there's no other way to be and there's no other way to get to be creative and feel safe in those kind of rooms.
Right. We're talking about the producers. You were in the original cast, which still holds the record for most Tonys ever won at 12. And you stayed in the show for 6 years.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, the longest you stayed in any show.
Yeah. I told you I didn't leave until they closed.
Oh, well, is that the only reason? I mean, is that the reason you left? I guess you had to because it closed. But were you looking for other jobs at the time, or were you just
I probably auditioned for things that maybe like little TV bit parts or things like that. I don't really remember. But to go and do, I'd rather stay in the city. I'd rather be in the city doing what I love. And Ula was, a quintessential stereotypical showgirly part. Like, so I'd still be doing it probably if it was running, if my legs could do it. I don't know if I can fall down in them splits anymore. But yeah, I probably did audition for a few things, but there was nothing that was going to be better than that for me at the time, right? I mean, unless I was to get a big spot on a TV series, you know what I mean? There was just nothing so I auditioned probably. I just didn't get anything else, or there was nothing better for me at that time.
Do you feel that like for a lot of years you were kind of pigeonholed as the showgirl, as the dancer?
Well, let's face it. I'm always going to be the second banana. I'm not a Park and Barker. I'm not Beth Level. Do you know what I mean? So I'm always going to be sort of that secondary. And plus the way I look, it's always going to be a kind of a showgirl or type of character. Even in my 30s, I would go in for TV things that were like, was a Miss America, her looks are fading. You know what I mean? It was always sort of that, she was a showgirl, was a Miss America, was a hooker or is a hooker. It was always sort of those parts. It is stereotypical, but it's also what I am, that sort of broad body thing.
But I get that. I understand it. And I don't know if I buy it. Because I ask you this question, though. You have been given these roles and gone in for these roles for decades. And what am I trying to say? That do you feel that you have started to believe what people are trying to put you into, and so that's just what you think you are now? Because I've seen you in the prom, and I've seen you sing Zaz, and I've seen you rock the socks off of every time you're on stage, and you can hang next to all the other leading ladies, but you don't. Everything you're telling me here is, nah, it's not me. But
well, I think it's just being realistic. I'm not being hard on myself. Trust me. Trust me. If you would have told that little towhead from Kentucky that someone was going to write a role for you on Broadway, I would have never believed it. But so part of that is just, I think, being realistic and knowing who you are. You know, it's like if I do talkbacks or workshops or anything, like I've learned through the years from friends, and we've discussed it, you sort of need to know what you are. You need to know what your essence is. You need to know what my friend David Hibbard, who was in Something Rotten with me, he says you need to know your colors. So I think you just need to know what that is. Do I think I could do a dramatic scene if you handed it to me? Absolutely. Do I think I'm going to sing Evita? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? It's just, I know exactly what I am.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I know I can do altar boys. That's not my voice type. But in terms of...
Yeah. So I feel like, and you know, this was written for me. This was written, you know, and Matt knows my voice, and it is sort of a la Kendra and Ebb, Chicago-y, Roxy type, you know. And that just happens to be what I am.
Okay.
And it's okay. I don't think I regret one thing that I've done. I do have one regret. In Cincinnati, Ohio, when I auditioned for Baby June in Gypsy, I was probably 10. I got it, and I didn't do it because I went to dance camp instead. And my mom let me, which was, you know, she didn't make me do it. And who knows if I would have done that. It was on this theater that was actually on the river called Showboat Majestic. And I got Baby June. I sang. I forgot the lyrics to Raindrops on Roses and Whiskers on Kittens. And then I said, can I start again? I sang it. I had a little boy haircut. I had short hair. I wore shorts and overalls. I didn't wear a dress. And I got it. But I didn't do it. So I do regret that. Because who knows? Maybe I would have started singing earlier. Do you know what I mean? Or made that a priority, which I think would be helpful. Because kids these days now, they come out, they're major, major, major triple threats, way beyond anything that I was then or am now. So it would have maybe given me a leg up. Two,
literally.
I maybe would have hated it, you know, and maybe not done it. I don't know. But I do regret that. But I think it turned out okay.
Oh yeah, like you're not doing bad for yourself. No. I'm trying to encourage you.
I appreciate it, and the thought that the fact that you think that, I very much appreciate. I'm very grounded in what I know I can do, and I think that's part of it. Do you know what I mean? That's part of the, not to be cliche, but that's part of the zazz. That's part of what I do. You know, my shtick, if you will.
Right. So the prom just, of course, nominated for 7 Tony Awards, including Best New Musical. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
The part was written for you. It's actually even named Angie because, as I understand it, they were writing the part. They were like, yeah, we need an Angie Schworer type of person. And then at one point, I think it was Casey who said, why don't we just get Angie? Like,
that's the word on the street, is that he said that. Yeah.
Right.
And Casey and I know I've said this several times, but Casey and I were on the set of Smash. He was directing an episode. And he literally, with his cute face, he was like, Bob Martin and I started writing this show. I'm not sure if Chad was a part of it then, but he said, you know, I don't know how that all came about, but he said, Bob Martin and I and Chad Beglin, I guess, are writing the show, and we call the character Angie Schworer. We call her your name. We call her Angie Schworer with his cute face. And that was like 7 years ago. So I don't know. And I think one of the coolest things is, you know, you get the contract, you know, your equity contract, and it says the role and it has Angie written it. I mean, it's really kind of surreal. And then we got this email early on before the first one-day table read, and it everyone's characters and who they should sort of think about. And on mine, it said, Angie, think you. And so I was like, that was pretty cool. I don't know where that email is, but I really wish I had a copy of it.
It's in your Hotmail account somewhere. Yahoo, MSN.
Yeah.
7 years ago, I guess. Gmail.
No, I think I already had the Gmail.
The Gmail. Gmail was around 7 years ago.
The Gmail.
The Gmails. And so coming into the prom, and I mean the four of you, Brooks, Beth, Chris, and you have been in it from the inception.
Absolutely.
Which is incredibly rare for leads to still be with it, making it all the way to Broadway.
It's incredibly rare that, we kind of made it happen. We made it happen that we were available because we really wanted to do it. But it's also rare that none of us, of course I go to myself, none of us got let go. I mean, you never know.
Being such a strong dancer, though, you've got, decades of dancing and all this history, and then working with Casey Nicola, who is very famously known now for being such an amazing director and an amazing choreographer.
Mm-hmm.
Is the experience with working with him different in a way of just working with somebody? Because Casey's he's been in ensembles. He's been as an actor on stage. And then now he's speaking to the ensemble. He's speaking to dancers because he in a different language, I feel, because he's been one of them.
I think there's definitely an understanding of what we go through and the way he says things, to kind of not hurt your feelings, because I think there's been some, inevitably there's sometimes that you have been talked to in a certain way. So I think maybe he understands that, so he doesn't ever make you feel bad about yourself. But yeah, I think that mainly I love that he doesn't bring his ego. He's just so joyful and fun and collaborative, and I feel like that's what makes you feel safe in a room.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that comes from living it, being in an ensemble, or if that's just who he is and, part of the magic of his directing and choreographing.
It's just interesting to me how much your character of Angie parallels your real life Angie. The character's been in the production of Chicago for over 20 years, but has never gotten to play a Roxy Hart and whatnot. And then now, you've got this over 20-year career of your own, and then for the first time now, this is your first leading role, and
that I've created.
That you've created, yeah. I just want to know, at what point did you ever think about giving up? Did you ever think this is a goal I don't think I'll ever meet?
Well, if you think about it, because we did know this was simmering 7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
There was always sort of that hope, and you always sort of had that little nugget at the end, right? No, obviously, unless they fired me before then, but you always sort of had this nugget, a little carrot, sort of going oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So I think definitely there was a calmness about me these past few years that I was like, it's going to come. This time is going to come. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, had I not had that, I don't know. It's just the way it's sort of panned out. I don't want to wish it any other way, obviously. Right. But yeah, I'm thinking about it now. I go, okay, so this happens and this is happening, and I want us to tell this story as long as we can. And I'm hopefully it'll be for a long time. But yeah, I do. And also because, your body, I feel like my body is breaking down. Like I always tease, it's like one tissue at a time. It's starting to, and it's weird. It's just the past few years that it started getting a little harder for me to move and groove. But with all the crap that I have done to myself all these years, I'm holding up pretty steady, pretty good. But yeah, I do worry about it. And there are times when I'm like, maybe I need to figure out something else for the other last half of my life. But I'm also one of those people that feel like everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. And as long as I sort of stay present and stay kind and keep my work ethic up and the way I have and my determination, I feel like it'll pan out. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about the last half, but as far as years ago, I don't think I ever did. There was one time I probably had maybe the longest time I hadn't had a job. And I don't really know what that timeline is. I'm going to say maybe it was about maybe 6 months. And I mean that between like I didn't have a Broadway show
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have a regional show or something. And I went into interview at an agency to be an agent. And the woman said to me, of the 6 people I interviewed today, I would choose you. And it was to be sort of, you start out as an assistant and blah, blah, blah. But I said to her, I don't know that if, that back then I don't know how many years ago this was. It was before the producers, so maybe 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Right around the time Rocky Horror, probably. I don't know if something came across my desk that said, over 5'8", alto, blonde, that I wouldn't be like, oh, I really want to do it. I want to go in for it. So I said that in the interview. And she said, of the 6 people, I would choose you, but call me in a year.
To see if you still want to do it.
Call me in a year. And then I got the producers, which we all know I stayed in that till the end of time.
Did you ever talk to that person that interviewed you?
No, I know her name now. Her name was Margie. And I've not talked to her since, no.
Because it's like little moments like that put you exactly where you are right now.
Yeah. You're right. Maybe I should reach out to her. I'm sure, I don't know if she's still there or not, but.
Yeah, you reach out and say, thank you for putting me in
Thank
the
you,
prom.
Margie.
That's right.
So there, yeah, I did think about quitting, I guess, then, or just trying something else. Maybe now I should get a big boy job. I don't know.
No, I think.
Well, not now, but in 6 years when the prom is still running.
Listen, I'm telling you, you need to look at this from a slightly better angle. That you have opened up a new door for yourself with this role, because you're now at a place where you can say, I originated a leading role in a great show, and I can do it again and again and again. And you have a moment where you do like a 180 split in the middle of the show. You don't have to do that the next time. Like,
yeah, I know.
This could be the last time you do that.
Well, let's put that out there, okay? Let's secret all of that you just said. One other thing I was thinking about, though, because you said, do you feel pigeonholed? If we look at regional things that I've done, Irene and Crazy for You, Roxy Hart in Chicago, obviously, Tanya in Mamma Mia, Vicki Nichols in Full Monty.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of what else. Z's Favorite in Will Rogers, I did a couple times early, years ago. They're all that same sort of got a little side talk, pizzazz, not, well, Vicki Nichols wasn't a showgirl, although at North Carolina Theater, I danced in Life with Harold. Josh Rhodes had me dance, which was really
fun.
fun.
My first professional gig.
What was?
NCT.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah,
I loved working there.
Yeah.
So they're all that same sort of similar thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just who I am. It's what I portray. Now we'll see. 5 years from now, I could be some crazy old cute character actress that's, doing some moving pitches. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. Like, I feel like older women, and I'm not saying you're old.
Yeah. Well, I am, but it's okay. Thank you.
Like, not your fresh out of college women. If you are successful and talented and have stuck with it to this point and have now opened up the opportunities that you've opened up for yourself, like, there's a lot of roles that are sitting at your doorstep that you are now about to age into, which I think, like,
okay, name some that you're thinking in your head.
What's her face from Wicked? Mrs. Madame Morrible.
Okay.
Gypsy. Mama. Like, come on. Yeah, come on, you can do that. Like,
I'm going to start working on that now.
I mean, just think about the actresses that you look up to, and you're like, I could do all that. You should be saying,
Yeah, I don't say that. But yeah, and I'm sure it doesn't serve me. I'm sure that sort of mindset doesn't serve me, but yeah. It's funny that you say that because I think about all that. I think about all of this, but right at this moment, we're enjoying, telling this story, and I mean, getting people at the stage door just saying thank you for telling this story. And I had a kid that told me that he was, he gets bullied at school, and like so this is helping him to have all of that. And it's not just, hey, we're putting on a show, I'm kicking my legs and blah, blah, blah. It's telling a story. I mean, we are doing that, but it's telling a great story that's helping people. And I feel like just by amplifying these issues in our show, we're talking how much you don't realize what an impact that has. And so it's sort of a game changer for just getting to be in a Broadway show. It's like, this is bigger than us now. And so I'm just kind of sitting in it. And like I always say, at the Long Acre, we're sort of simmering with this positive, grateful, joyful energy. And I think that's serving us. And that's what's going to keep this story going. So I do always worry. But for right now, I'm sort of trying to just, as I always like to say, fly under the radar, meaning keeping my body intact, keeping the vocals intact, showing up, being present, doing my job, and making people feel better.
Feel, period.
Yeah, feel and feel better.
Because the show, like the four of you, you're the comic relief. Like you're the four of you together, friends outside of the show, but like in the show, you guys are brilliant. And then you've got Caitlin and Izzy, who are the love of the show.
Yes.
And carrying this message across that is bringing representation to the stage that is desperately needed right now.
Absolutely.
And and you've got just feedback I hear from everybody in the prom. The feedback that you get over and over again every time, like you were saying, that somebody's saying they're bullied, or Josh Lehman said that someone told him that he's bi, and it's the first time this guy has ever uttered the words that he's bisexual. And so like it's just feels good.
There's so many, and I raised two teenagers from 10 and 12 to now 23 and 25. My two-step teenagers. And I know that age, how horrible and sort of awkward and scared you can feel. And I feel like this show makes all of those children and our youth feel like there's a safe place that they can be themselves and be who they want to be. And I feel like that is just, that's a huge thing to sort of relay to kids. And I feel like that's what makes it's so great. And I feel like Izzy and Caitlin, I obviously do Zaz with Caitlin, and she looks at me with this face that you feel like you just as a scared teenager, and the youth and all of those things that are going on. She's so great at portraying that. But I feel like, we're just, we're doing something pretty great here that is changing lives, I think, like our song says.
And there's been parents, right, who have said, like, I'm that parent. I'm the one who didn't realize how.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yes.
Someone in Atlanta, when we were down in Atlanta, said that. So at the stage door, we have just as many young people as olds, as middle-aged like us. Do you know what I mean? Which I love. There's something for everyone, and there's something for everyone, and they see somebody up there that is a replica of who they are or how they are feeling. So, it's helping everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Right? From the youth to the olds to the middle ages.
Well, it just helps everyone. Musicals in general and the theater takes people to a different place, if only temporarily, and takes them out of whatever problems they're having or whatever anxiety they're feeling, whatever the case
That's
may
where
be.
you go, right?
You go to experience something that you wouldn't otherwise experience. And when you are taken on this journey that the prom takes you on, never end a sentence in a preposition. It's so heartwarming. Like I walked out of the show just feeling like I've learned something.
Yeah, I feel like they walk out of, I think our audience sort of walks out like floating. It's like floating on air. It just makes you feel good. And I know that sounds so cliche. It really does. It's sort of like, just feel good. But I'm sorry. I'm 100 years old and I do that, my senior hip hop, the finale, I could do it 6 more times. It's just so joyful and fun to do. And you're singing these words, build a prom for everyone, it really is just sort of, you float out. You float off.
Yeah. So in Act 2, you mentioned Zaz a couple times. The number is called Zaz. That is a hell of a dance number. And you do that 8 times a week. Yeah.
My sweet Casey Nicola he made it well enough that he knew I could do it 8 shows a week. It's just enough for me. And I don't know if you know, I'm in like 5-inch heels.
Yeah.
Tipping it down.
So you're like 6'3" on stage.
A lot of vertical with gestures.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what I love to do. That's just, it's oozy and fun. And, I do have to do some batmas, some kicks and pancakes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very all that jazz or Chicago, right? Keep in the character.
Yeah.
See how they go. See what they did there. But yeah, it's just enough for me.
Do you look forward to it, or is it something like that you have to get over?
No, I look forward to it because it's my moment. It's my only real moment. So it's like, what once again is just fine for me. I do warm up the entire intermission though, just to do that number. Now,
Really?
Back in the day, when I was doing Ula, I could just plop down in a split like 2 seconds, and that was my warm up. Now, there's a lot more movement involved, just to make sure that you're not gonna, when I do one of those pelvic things, I'm not gonna like be out. Oh, my back. Oh. Or when I do one of my arm things, So it's just there's a lot to it, but it's just another day in the office.
Well, you have a pretty cool office.
Thanks, man. We think so too.
So you did Sublime Order, and you are also on Queer Eye and As the World Turns.
Queer Eye, I taught somebody how to dance for their wedding. It was the old one.
Were you?
I was Ula at the time, and so they had me come in and I taught someone how to dance who was going to be getting married.
Oh.
And then As the World Turns, I was casino hostess.
There you go.
I had a few lines, and I tipped through the casino in a tight dress. Same character. She was probably losing her looks too.
So the only, correct me if I'm wrong, the only film credit I found was the producers, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then there was also Smash. Is Smash on there?
Yeah, but that's not film.
Yeah, no, TV though.
That's the telly.
That's the tele.
Yeah.
The only moving picture.
That's where you met Casey, yeah?
Yeah. Well, that's not where I met him. We knew of each other.
Yeah.
When he was in Crazy for You in the ensemble, I was not. When he left, I came into Crazy for You. So we were 2 ships that passed in the night.
Right.
But we knew of each other.
Yeah.
The only moving picture I did was the producers, was Stroh.
You talk like you're 200 years old. The only moving picture I've ever done.
Speakeasy, see?
Speakers, get off my lawn.
I like moving pictures.
I like the moving pictures too, especially with CGI. Are you a Marvel movie fan? Marvel Comics?
No.
No?
No, not yet.
Have you watched any of them?
No.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
Oh no. Now you're going to take back all those bad things, all those really nice things you said about me?
Oh no, they're still true. But now
You're
you
just
have to go
mad at me.
back. I still haven't seen the latest Avengers movie, but
okay.
don't sue me. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up here with 3 standard questions that I ask everybody to end the podcast.
Oh, I hate these. They make me nervous.
Number 1, what's a towhead? Just kidding. Number 1, what motivates you?
Joy. Just one word?
Joy. Anything.
Oh,
yeah.
Joy. Passion. being better, wanting more. All of that motivates me. Not a good answer?
No, I'm so trying to analyze your personality right now because that still plays into the whole like, I'm good enough. But yet you still strive for more. If you're saying that's what motivates you,
Well, doesn't it?
well, you should.
What if I just thought I was just good enough and I just didn't try anymore?
I think that'd be sad.
Right. So what motivates me is wanting to be better. So are you mad at me because you think I'm good enough?
No, I am not mad. I am disappointed that I feel like you have way more talent than you think.
You feel
do.
like I'm being self-deprecating.
Yes.
Well, it's kind of part of my shtick, but it's also, like I said, realistic to me. But I think what motivates me is just is life and passion and wanting more, wanting to be better. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Next question is, what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Say yes to everything that comes your way. Stop worrying so much about the future. Be in it, in the moment where you are right now, and don't think that you need to be any further. Just be in it because it's going to lead you to exactly where you are supposed to be.
And last question, if you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what show would you see?
Build a prom for everyone. The Prom.
Have you seen your own show?
No.
So you would want to see it, but you need to, this is what Chris said too. Chris Sieber.
What'd he say?
Prom.
Yeah.
But he's like, what? It would be impossible because he wants to see the four of you in it. So by watching himself, he wouldn't be in it.
Well, that's true. I definitely have to say that. The Prom.
Okay.
I think it's, because of so many things we've already talked about, but it's the joy and sort of silliness. That to me is inspiring. And I want to walk out of the theater floating.
All right. So we can find you online on Instagram at Angie Schworer.
Yeah, I'm so social media. Not. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be cool kid, like one of the cool kids.
How long have you been on Instagram?
Maybe 2 years.
Hey, that's not too bad.
Maybe only 2 years. I've never done Facebook.
Never?
No. I'm just on Instagram. That
Okay.
was my big to-do.
Your big thing? And you can get more of the Theater Podcast, thetheaterpodcast.com. But please go there and support us as much as you can. Thetheaterpodcast.com/Patreon. You can get me online at theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I am on Facebook.com/official theater podcast. Listen and subscribe. If you're listening now, please make sure you subscribe, leave a rating. This is produced by Jillian Hockman. Thanks to Jukebox the Ghost for the lovely intro and outro music. And Angie, thank you so much for being here. This has been fun.
Thank you so much for all the very nice things that you said. I'm going to cherish them forever.
Well, lucky for you, we're recording this, so you can play it back.
Oh my God, I can play it
over and over and
when
over.
I'm feeling down.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.